Where to begin?
Right? After this, oh my goodness, where, indeed, indeed. Celeste, just thank you for even making the time to speak about what transpired, what we went through, what we all went through, and, like Dev said, you planted seeds, you brought the seeds. We were the seeds, and we'll see the harvest that's already reaping, it's already sown. So just thank you.
Of course. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah.
It's your guys' willingness and openness and allowing to show up.
Yeah.
It's a joint effort from everybody.
Yeah, for sure. It was combined. It was all of us in there. And they do say that teamwork makes the dream work. It does.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It does indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Celeste, for anybody who doesn't know much about Vipassana, how would you describe it?
The course or the practice?
Well, the practice itself.
Mm-hmm. The best way that I find to describe it is on a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So the spectrum looks, on one side it's unpleasant sensations, and on the other side it's pleasant sensations.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to, as humans, run towards either one.
Mm-hmm.
So running towards the unpleasant ones is aversion, and running towards the pleasant ones is craving.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal is to be in the middle, and that is called equanimity,
Okay.
or to be equanimous.
Okay.
That's the goal, to be the observer
Yes.
and be less reactive and more responsive.
Yes.
So to me, Vipassana is dancing on that spectrum and observing myself as I'm on that spectrum,
Okay.
because it's different every sit.
Right.
As you saw, we just sat together, and
Yeah.
that was different.
Yes.
And so, and other times I'm lost in thought and kind of swinging on a pendulum on that spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So Vipassana in general is that game of equanimity, which
Okay.
requires awareness, and then also equanimity of being aware of your reactions versus responses.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful explanation. Thank you for breaking that down. The game of equanimity, the dance.
Yeah.
That middle path. Like they talk about, if you're playing a guitar and the strings are too loose, it can't play. But if the strings are too tight, it'll snap. So when it's just right, when it's in that middle,
Mm-hmm.
it plays that beautiful music. We stay in tune.
And I feel like that's alignment.
Okay.
That middle, that sweet spot,
Yeah.
and equanimity and flow.
Yeah.
That's true alignment.
Okay.
It's love. It's the truth.
Okay.
That's the goal. That's
Yeah.
where we want to be. That's the sweet spot.
Right. Those sweet spots.
That's why I keep practicing. That's
Mhm.
so I can be in there as as often as possible.
Yes. Yes. So that is the goal. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like, all things considered, that everything aligned for you at this retreat?
Everything is in the external, all the players showing up,
Yeah,
or you
like-
mean everything like what I was processing from beginning to end, or
Yeah. Like across the board, do you feel like a lot of it aligned?
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes,
So it was divine.
yes.
All
But I feel like everything is happening in divine timing, and it's happening the way it's meant to. So when you say aligned, it's like, are you asking me like, did it happen the way I had initially wanted to?
right. Okay.
Because it's like,
Okay. Well then, let's go there. Did you have expectations? Because people sometimes say, "Oh, don't have any expectations." So when you say initially you wanted something, what were your expectations?
Well, the first Vipassana that I sat, it was very cathartic, and it was difficult, but it was blissful. It was like I had this first divine connection to my highest self.
Yeah.
And so the second one, I knew it would be different because my previous friends were like, hey, every sit's different. But I didn't know how painful this one would be.
Okay.
And going into it, I was like, yes, my intention, I would like to release, like the first one I released a lot.
Yeah.
And it felt like I had lifted so much weight that I was holding on to from childhood and just from all the experiences I had the previous years that were really dark. And so this time I was like, oh, I would like to release even more.
Yes.
And I have things like, I just started processing like worth issues, I don't want to say issues, feelings of unworthiness.
Okay.
And so I was like, I would love to release more of that and make space for all the abundance because I'm in the process of opening a new business. So I'm like, I want to make space for that. So release the feelings of unworthiness. So if I wanted one thing, that was that. But how it would be, I was surrendering and letting it be whatever it would be. And then I get there and it was just like so much pain.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, whoa, this is way different than the first time. So I was open, but also I had intentions, but I was open and I allowed it to be however it was meant to be. I surrendered.
Yes,
you
yes,
know?
yeah.
And I know why it was like that. It was like the first sit that I had done, I was strengthening my awareness and I had just gotten an idea of what the practice was about. So I knew what equanimity was, but I hadn't strengthened my muscles yet. I didn't have my core muscles in. And I kept my practice the whole year. But then when I got to this Vipassana, this like the second day I was crying during my sit. And the assistant teacher had the manager come up to me and remind me in a gentle, loving way, hey, remember your intentional breath. Go back to your intentional breathing. She could hear me crying or feel me crying. I don't know. I had my eyes closed and I assumed everyone else did, but she knew I was crying. So
somehow.
I was quietly doing it too. And I was like, okay, she tapped, like, the manager tapped me and she reminded me. And it was very humbling because I realized when I release while I'm sitting, that's technically practicing me releasing, not necessarily Vipassana, and Vipassana is focusing on the bodily sensations and your awareness around your reactivity around the bodily sensations. It's not processing this thing and releasing it and crying it out. You did it for me. I'm like, okay, I could do that after. But while I'm sitting, I'm practicing Vipassana. So when that happened at the second day of the sit, it really set the stage for the rest of my sit. And so that second sit was about equanimity and strengthening my equanimity and sticking to Vipassana. And wow, it was extremely challenging.
Oh yeah.
Yes. It was painful, but it was like I had moments of bliss, and it was just more gradual compared to the first one. So.
Wow. And even in those moments of bliss, you feel that you flex those equanimity muscles?
I was like, I knew that it was temporary, and I felt more checked into the observer role. It was more like I was in awe rather than like high off of it. Like the first one, it was just like the first time that it ever happened, and it was just like, whoa, like, I'm flying high, what is this? And then this time I was like, wow, I feel the bliss, like that is possible, like the possibilities are endless, and I'm an energetic being and it's infinite, like and I could feel it, and it just felt solid, and I was grateful. I felt blessed and grateful.
So it was more gratitude, just like the feeling of being blessed for the blissfulness. Instead of being taken away with it. And this time around, I had way more awareness because I had talked to you right before the sit about the duality of pain and love, and how I'd just been processing a lot of deep pain and realizing where there's deep pain, there's also deep love. The deeper I go into pain, the deeper I'm able to go into love. And vice versa. It's this two sides of the same coin, and I'm the observer. And so I knew that going into the sit. So when I had those moments of bliss, I kind of checked in with that and remembered, and I was like, oh wow, this is it. I just went through this really intense pain, and then now here's the really intense love. Two sides, same coin, same coin. Wow. And you never know where it may land. You know?
I'm just watching it spin, and I'm
like,
okay, let's see what lands now.
Oh man, so that's kind of like part of the game. It's just being able to sit with it, as it is, as it is. Wow, wow, that's profound, And as you talked about your expectations, what do you feel ultimately were your best preparations for something like this?
Well, the first year in the course, he recommends that you continue meditating the practice 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening.
Right.
And so I found my sweet spot in that regard. I did 2.5 hours a day.
Okay.
And then I also did like 6 to 8 hours once a month.
Okay.
So I had my Vipassana days. And so technically I had a year of prep. I did literally every single day.
Yeah.
And there's probably 2 days where I didn't, and one was like, both of them I think I was sick. So I'm like, what's self-love at that point?
Cut yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I enjoyed it. I made it a priority, and for me that was the biggest prep that I could have done. But also, like a couple months beforehand, I was feeling really strong, and I was curious. I was like, well, how long can I sit? Because I know when I sit the next Vipassana, they have those 2-hour sits in the morning, and they're rough, and I want to know, like, I haven't done one of those in a while, because I've just been doing an hour sit, and sometimes an hour and a half, but and then over the summer I did my first 3-hour sit, which was like really intense. Yeah, I was like, whoa. And after I did that, I was like, I got 90 minutes. Like, let's do this. I got 90 minutes. So I started doing 90 minutes more often.
Okay.
And I trained for a sprint triathlon, and I did a detox before that. And within the detox, I upped my meditation.
Whoa.
And so I was doing 3 hours a day, and I was doing 90-minute sits in the morning instead of just the hour.
Okay.
So, and that was in August. So
you were well prepared.
Yeah. So I was already upping my meditation game as it was getting closer for different reasons, but it just happened to be in prep also, because at that time I hadn't even applied for the Vipassana yet, but I wanted to prep because meditation helps for everything, and like it'll help for the triathlon for sure. So I was prepping without knowing, but with knowing, because I did know I wanted to go to Vipassana, but we hadn't decided on which location and what dates and who and when. So I just kept upping the meditation and seeing how it felt. And prioritizing those Vipassana days. They're really important. I really cut everything else out of my schedule, and I just sit all day.
Honed in. Honed in, zoned in. Oh man. So it really didn't even matter where we went. You were gonna be ready. Yeah. It
was regardless of anyone else, if everybody else bailed, I was going.
Okay.
When I left that first Vipassana, I was like, the goal is once a year. If I can swing it, I'm gonna do it. And then we chose the place, and then I applied, and I got accepted, and I checked in with everyone else to see, are you guys still in? Are we doing this? 5 flights? What's happening? And but I told myself, I was like, regardless, I'm gonna go, because it's happening. So
what do you feel like affected you so much, Celeste, that you said to yourself, this is the goal, once a year, no matter what, it's happening?
That first sit was so impactful for me, because I got there, and never in my whole life had I just sat with myself in silence for 10 days, yet alone before then 1 or 2 days. I got there, there's food being served for you. You don't have to clean, you don't talk, you don't have to listen to anyone other than Goenka. And there's no writing, there's no nothing. It's, you just be. It's like, how many days of my life have I allowed myself to just be? And it was so limited. And I was like, wow, this is such an impactful and like beautiful act of self-love. And so at that point, and then obviously after the course, I had such a transformative experience that I was like, I definitely want to make time for this. This is important. This is like one of the greatest acts of self-love. I want to make an effort at least to come back. And then eventually serve too. Like that's an important part of it also. So but I also was like, no, I want to sit twice and then serve my third time. I had already like wanted that. So that's why I was like, I want to make it a priority. And then as soon as I started practicing after, it just became like a lifestyle. I was like, these sits for these hours, they're just as important, if not more important, than food.
Okay.
That's how I reframed it. It's
Yeah,
not like a
yeah.
chore. It's not
No.
something, another thing to do
No.
for 2 hours of my day.
Yeah.
No, this is like food. Like,
Yeah. This is nourishment.
yes, it's
Yeah.
nourishment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
man. And speaking of, service, and them being in service to assist us in our self-love practice, that's awesome. Like, just for them to be able to do that, to go out of their way to do that, it says a lot. It spoke to me when the lady was telling us, like, everyone here is volunteers.
Yeah.
You've already been paid for. Like, it's all we take is donations. I was like, what? This is amazing. Like all of this? Yeah.
She's like, there's no cleanup crew coming in. And
No.
she's like, and I spoke to her after, right
Mhm.
before we were leaving, and she was like, there's 3 people in the kitchen cooking for all of us.
Wow.
At one point, I was
Wow.
like, what?
3 people.
3.
For like how
Her
many
and
people?
her husband, and then probably one other server.
Yeah.
I was like,
For like how many? Like, it was like, how many of us were in there? Like 20
20, yeah.
20 folks, 3 people
But
cooking.
maybe 30 because including everyone else.
Right, that's true. So 3 people were cooking for 30 people. Dang. That's wow.
So she was being serious when she was like, yeah, probably every center,
Yeah.
but this center is short on
We
service.
always
and,
need
yeah.
service.
So,
Yeah.
and serving is just as important in another part of the practice
Yeah.
as sitting. So
Yeah.
it's an important factor.
Okay. Okay.
I'm really looking forward to
hmm
seeing what that is like.
Yeah. And one of the factors, interestingly enough, that I guess ironically became a part of the practice, I wonder how you took it, but we were in like the snowy mountain. It was like an intermountain Vipassana center, but it was in snow and it was constantly changing, right? Changing, impermanent, anicca, and sometimes it would be, just, bristling cold, just really brisk outside, and then sometimes it would be snowing, and then sometimes it would be, like the wind would be blowing, and we would just be trying to just trudge through it. So how did
your
that?
Sandals?
Yeah. How did that factor into your practice when it came to the practice? Like, how did the climate, the weather, how did that factor in?
This was my first time in snow.
Okay.
In my life.
Okay.
So for me, it was exciting change.
Okay. So in life, this is the first time
Yes.
you've ever.
Yes.
Wow.
There was one time in Colorado that it sprinkled snow,
Mhm.
and then there was like piles of snow here and there.
Mhm.
But I've never been in like where my whole foot goes into the snow,
Yeah.
and the whole mountain is covered,
Right.
and it covers the whole path, and they have to shovel it out of the way.
Yeah.
I've never been in that much snow before.
Okay.
So for me, I felt like a child, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm living the snow globe life.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm finally here. And then
Uh-huh.
when it snowed for the first time, like on day 5,
Mhm.
I got out of the 4:30 meditation, 2-hour
Mhm.
meditation, which was rough. But I get out, it's snowing, like snowing, and
Uh-huh.
I just start crying.
Wow.
I was like, this is so beautiful. I'm here. I made it. Like, this is. And the coldness, I ended up appreciating it because sometimes when I was sitting, I
Mhm.
felt so much like burning
Yeah.
in my legs. It felt like fire.
Okay.
So when I went outside, it was like, if you noticed, every time they're like, okay, you can take short break, I was like, get
Yeah.
And everyone
Please.
else is like,
You teleported.
I'm too lazy to put my shoes
Yeah.
on. I can hear it. I'm like, my sweater, I'm meaning like, no, I'm chilling here. I'll stand up and stretch. But me, I was like, no, I'm gonna go outside and feel the cold and refresh.
Right.
I'm gonna walk and up the hill. I had a whole little routine.
You vanished.
Yeah, and then at night too, the stars were so beautiful.
Yeah.
So many stars.
The starry night.
Yes.
Mhm.
There were times where I'm like, wow, this is really cold.
Mhm,
And then when we took our masks off and we
Yeah.
were able to be without masks, because
Yeah.
we started the course with the masks and they're fairly strict. And
Right.
then at mid-course, they were like, it's okay, it's optional now. And I was
Mhm.
like, yes. It's probably because, they just want to make sure no one was going to be sick. But
Right.
at the beginning. And so I would go outside without the mask, and I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh gosh, this is real cold."
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I just kind of endured it. I just, this is it.
Yeah.
And I had a warm jacket, and I had gloves and
Yeah.
a beanie, so I felt warm enough.
Yeah.
I had 2 layers of pants and a long sleeve under.
Mhm.
So, and then in the mornings, the mornings, man, with the snow and the plants,
Mm-hmm.
and then watching it melt, and just the snow. It was like rainbow sprinkles.
Yeah.
It was like Earth's sugar.
Yeah.
Powdered sugar,
You
but
saw
it was
all the-
sprinkled
yeah.
rainbows. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, this is amazing. And then on the path, like everyone, you could tell, like the main steps, it was a path where everyone usually walked in. It's way easier.
Mhm.
And for me, the process was, I would like to choose the road less traveled.
Okay.
And that was something for me that I was learning with the snow.
Okay.
When you're asking my experience with the snow specifically,
Yeah.
it was like I chose the road less traveled.
Okay.
I would always walk on the fresh, like fluffy snow, which
Mhm.
was more difficult to walk through.
Mhm.
My feet were just sinking in,
Right.
and it was going uphill. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm gonna work out today.
Mhm.
But I had fun with it. I'd never done it before,
Yeah.
and it just felt satisfying.
Yeah.
I was looking at all the other animal tracks, you know, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this animal was here too. Like it was
Yeah.
really cute, the bunnies, and then the other paw prints, and
Mhm.
it was magical.
Wow.
And then the sun too, and
Yeah.
watching the sun like melt the ice off of the plants,
Right.
and
right.
watching the transition.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was just the thawing. I
Yeah.
felt my body thawing sometimes
Yeah.
too. I
So
would
there
get
was a
back to my room.
parallel.
Yes. Yeah. I was
Awesome.
like, nature's our greatest teacher.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
Yeah.
mirror, and to have it be shown to me on a different spectrum from the first time. And now I can see the actual cold spectrum. Granted, I'm sure it goes way farther, where it's like blizzard life, and I feel like this was a great step into it. It
For
wasn't
sure.
too much.
No,
it was
no.
perfect.
It was never like unbearable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I found a lot of joy in it.
Beautiful. Wow. What a fairy tale.
Yeah.
You know, it was like we're in a book.
Yeah.
You know?
So I tell people that my life is like the greatest movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was like after my first, maybe it was like right before my first Vipassana, where I felt like I was living a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is really happening. This
Yeah.
is the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You-
And it
Yeah.
just keeps getting better and better. And I'm
Seriously.
the star, and I have all these other co-stars.
Yeah.
And we're just like fucking playing. And
We
I'm
in
like,
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just growing, expanding, healing
Yeah.
together.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
I love it. I love it. You know, it's like you're writing your own story. You're blazing your own trail. You're a trailblazer. You know, like you said, you went on the road less traveled,
Yes.
and you made a trail. You know, I love that. I love that. Yeah. And it takes courage to do that. You know, it takes courage to go where none other has gone and make a trail. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I was thinking about you too.
You
The
were?
whole- the whole Breatharian. I'm like, that's a road less traveled. I was like, dang, man.
Oh
I'm
boy.
doing it in a lot of ways.
I mean, interestingly enough, it's sort of kind of like how my feet were getting adjusted to the snow.
Mm.
You know, when I was first out there, it was rough. It was like, you know, like I was just trying to get in as quick as possible. And then somewhere down the line, like how Deb later on, she was like, Jerome, like my hat's off to you, man. Like, how you doing this, you know? And it stopped occurring to me that it was even a problem. You know, at some points my nose was colder than my feet, you know, so it was like, it adjusted. It adjusted. It's almost like how sometimes when we did the aditana, the strong determination sits, where we were tasked with not moving at all. There were certain points in the meditation, Celeste, where I could feel like my body, you know, those pains every now and then, those sensations. At a certain point, if I just kept sitting and I just kept sitting, it was almost like my body was like, okay, I guess he's not moving.
Yeah.
Like, let's
Sit.
find a new place to make a sensation because he's not gonna move. Like, he's determined. It was like my body it fell in line, it understood, like, okay, I guess, you know, this is what's happening
Yeah.
now. So that actually was interesting to feel myself respond in a way that was an observational response instead of a reactional response. And I felt like, wow, I'm starting to get what they're saying. And when you get it in real time and you can remain equanimous, like, it's eye-opening. It's eye-opening that you can observe yourself from that angle, you know, from that perspective. Yeah. So you resonate Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Strengthening that muscle is life changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because once you do it with yourself, you're able to do it in so many other ways.
Right.
It just
Right.
ripples out
Right.
at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But to see it with your body and the sensations,
Yes.
it's that lived experience that you feel.
Exactly.
For me, it was like something would just go numb.
Uh-huh.
And it's like we're accepting. It's like, all right, now I don't feel it.
Yeah.
Next. But it also feels like strong.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You get to a point where it's like you don't move,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah,
That's all she
you
wrote.
can get past the sensations,
Right.
and then it just becomes numb, basically, and
Yeah.
then you're solid,
Locked
like,
in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's how you look too, Celeste. Like, I don't know if you know how you look. Well, sometimes we don't know how we look.
Yeah. Well, I do the time lapses, but yeah.
But there were times where I would look over at you, not like during the meditations, but like, you know, there were times where either after the meditation, if we were asked if we wanted to go back to our rooms, and sometimes I would open my eyes and I would look over at you and you'd be a statue, you know, just a rock, just there, not moving, you know? It reminded me of this show, there's a show that used to come on, it was a cartoon called Gargoyles, and it would be these statues that would just be in these shapes and just be there, you know, like you were unmoved, like frozen, like you said, just frozen. And that showed me the determination. It also showed me the tenacity of the human spirit to be able to be unmoved, unfazed, unbroken, you know, will, you know?
Yeah.
Wait, let me ask you actually, do you feel like that was your willpower, or that was your, like, what do you feel like the mental faculty you were using in those moments when you were having yourself do that?
This time around, I had him in my mind,
Okay.
from the discourses and
Okay.
from some of the meditation instructions.
Go in.
He would say, "Let's see how long this lasts."
Okay.
And he would also say anicca. That one's always from the first set. I'd
Yeah.
always be like anicca,
Anicca.
anicca,
Yeah.
anicca.
Yeah.
Because it's true, it would pass,
Mhm.
and it does pass. And for me, the 2-hour sits in the morning were the most difficult,
Okay.
but they were also my favorite at the beginning. But
Mhm.
then in day 8, it was like, oh gosh.
Mhm.
But they were the most difficult,
Mhm.
and one way that I would kind of reframe if I was really going through it, and this will pass, and
Mhm.
the nicha didn't really work, I'd
Yeah.
be like, okay, you're gonna, in like 20-30 minutes, you're gonna be sitting in the breakfast thing, not feeling these pains, eating an apple. Like,
Mhm.
know that.
Yeah.
Just keep sitting, stay still.
Yes.
You're gonna be over there in 30 minutes.
Yes.
You can do it.
Yeah.
So that's where it would turn
Okay.
into. I'd start turning into my own cheerleader.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you were rooting for yourself.
Yes,
You were
yeah.
in the stands, you're in
Because-
the bleachers.
Yeah, because I've had the lived experience of that, of
Okay.
me being in the breakfast and being like, huh, I was just dying like 30 minutes ago, and
Yeah.
now I'm fine. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, remember this. You're fine. Like, it's fine. He's right. It's all impermanent. Like, you
Yes.
got this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So I would hold on to those, and those would keep me like
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. When you say you would hold on to those, you know, what do you feel it is that allows us to forget that sense of impermanence?
You know, sometimes when he says, when you're going through the scans and the sensations, and you come through a very intense, gross sensation,
Mm-hmm.
and he says to continue scanning and to not get lost in the gross sensation.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like sometimes for me, I'll get lost in the gross sensation, and that's where I'll sometimes forget
Okay.
of like the big,
Okay.
the equanimity. I'm like, whoa, this
Yeah.
is so painful, and then
Yeah.
I'd forget that it's gonna go away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it depends on, how aware you are
Okay.
in that moment of like, are you practicing Vipassana, or are you getting lost
Yeah. Okay.
in the sensation or in thought, because
Okay.
you're averting from feeling the sensation.
Okay. Okay.
So,
So we kind of start to coast, like when we get lost in the gross
yeah. You
sensations.
and your freaking rhymes. Oh my god, perfect. Yeah.
It makes sense.
Tend to coast. Say it again.
Yeah.
When you get lost in the gross.
When we get lost in the gross, we
Yeah.
start to coast.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. You
And
know?
sometimes it's unconscious. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's part of my unconscious brain that protected me from trauma as a child.
Mhm.
Like, and my brain was unable to process this pain,
Mhm.
and so it would avert. It would go somewhere else. It
Okay.
would, at that time maybe dissociate, but also distract.
Yeah.
And so now I'm feeling all this pain,
Okay.
and sometimes my thought process would
Yeah.
distract. Like,
Yeah.
we're averting from that pain, and it was
Yeah.
definitely after day 8 when I felt the most pain.
Okay.
Day 9, I had a really difficult time refocusing on my sensations because my body was like, we're not doing that again.
Right.
But it was like that reminding of the gentleness of we could do this and
Mhm.
it will pass. Let's see how long this lasts.
Yes.
Coming from a place of curiosity
Mhm.
rather than being like, oh, you're about to feel this pain and it's gonna be because then
Right.
it's like the brain's gonna be like, fuck that, bye.
Right.
So it was
Yeah.
coming from a place of curiosity of like,
Yeah.
let's see how long this lasts.
I like that, and that's a great way to look at it. It's a gentle way to look at it.
Yes.
This will pass. Let's see how long this lasts. I like that. And when you say that the mind is, going this way or it's taking you this way, do you feel like that's just almost like a defense mechanism, or is it just trying to protect you?
That's what I was talking to another person, Jordan, who sat with us.
Okay.
I was like, tell me if you agree with this or not. And because I do feel like it's the subconscious way of aversion without even like knowing that you're averting,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a protection because that's what worked for me when I was a child.
Right.
But that no longer necessarily works for me now.
Mhm.
I guess in some cases, but I'm not in crisis when I'm sitting like this.
No.
But day 8 did feel like torture.
Okay.
Like I crossed the line a little. I kind of pushed myself
You-
a little too far. Yes,
you
I
cracked
was.
the whip. Yeah.
My gentleness was like, no, whoosh,
Uh-huh.
and we're going.
Yes.
We're going.
Yes.
Let's see how long this lasts. Oh my gosh. So day 9, my body was like,
man.
you just tortured yourself. We're not gonna. Nope. We're gonna start thinking about this stuff. We're
Okay.
gonna think about what we're doing when we're leaving. We're
Yeah.
gonna think about all the things we learned. We're gonna
Yeah.
think about, what does it look like to pack? We're
Yeah.
gonna think, when's the next nap? Like,
Yeah.
how are we gonna clean? Like, I started, thinking about everything else. I was wondering about you guys. When am I gonna see you guys? And but then I would gently bring myself back.
Okay.
And that gentleness, like you said, for me, that was the biggest part of this whole sit, was the
Okay.
gentleness, which is
Okay.
what I've been practicing in my life the last 6 months, but
Yeah.
specifically the last 3 months.
Okay.
Gentleness to me is patience and kindness. To have both is to be gentle.
Combined.
Yes.
Yes.
And to be gentle with this type of work is very important because it's intense.
Yeah.
It's that surgical procedure we're talking about. It's
Yes.
intense.
Yes.
You don't want to go into the surgery room and just start stabbing shit.
Scalpel.
Yeah,
Scalpel.
you could, but good luck like fucking putting it back together,
Right.
like and stitching it
Mhm.
and being functional.
It's a delicate procedure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just gentleness and
Mhm.
patience.
Yeah.
That's why I learned to be gentle and that there's zero rush.
Mm-hmm.
I can have all these ideas and want to just hit the ground running, but
Mhm.
there's zero rush.
Okay.
Be gentle.
Yeah. That's the message. That's the message, like zero rush, because especially in this society, we feel like we don't have enough time. That's a big one. We feel like we're behind, we don't have enough time, like we need to be more in line, there's more. And to be able to do something like this, to make that time for yourself and to say, you know what, I'm just gonna sit, like doesn't matter what, I'm gonna be right here, I'm doing this for me, that's, like you said, it's self-love, that's gentleness, that's that patience, that kindness combined. So
And that sitting, what has helped me,
Mhm.
it slow down.
Yeah.
But also I recognize that I stopped feeling like there's not enough time
Okay.
when I was stuck with the practice for the year.
Okay.
Because I literally slowed down, and when I slowed down, it helped me live a more intentional life.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was using each day to its fullness.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like I didn't have enough.
Right.
That feeling wasn't there anymore.
Okay.
Maybe random glimpses when I lose my alignment and I'm ungrounded and frantic. Like
Okay.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I have all these things and I do feel behind. Like
Right.
but majority of the time, the more I sat, the more I realized less is more, and I could get way more done by sitting
Okay.
and grounding myself. Because when I start moving from a
Mhm.
grounded place after sitting, it's so much more intentional.
Mhm.
And when I'm intentional, there's way less missing things. People, I don't miss people because I enjoyed my time with them when I had it.
Right.
And same with my time in general. I enjoyed and intentionally soaked it up and used it as
in the
much.
moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's less of like, there's not enough time in a day. It's like, no, prioritize and move intentionally, and there's plenty of time in the day.
I love that. I love that. Wow. So you would say like the more you sat, the less you lacked.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Come on, I love it. It's like
you frame it so beautifully. I say this complex thing, and you're like, "Oh, okay, so it's this," in like 3 words. I'm like, yes, Jerome.
That's what I'm receiving.
It's teamwork. Yes,
you know,
yes.
That's what I'm perceiving from what you're putting out. That's the energy that I'm getting. It's abundance.
Yes.
Like there's more than enough to go around.
Yeah.
There's no lack here.
It's Gemini. My energy.
Yeah. Is infinite. Come on.
My energy.
Yeah.
Is infinite.
Hey.
That's literally how I feel now.
Right.
The more I sit, though, which
Abundance.
sounds contradictory, but it's that it's true.
Mm-hmm. The more
It's
you
all
sit,
here.
the more you sit, the more you get.
Yes.
Yeah.
It used to be a chasing, and now it's a sitting and attracting.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. You know, when you've talked about the complications, what do you feel like were some conversations that you had with yourself? Because I don't know about you, but I mean, this being my first sit, I was having all sorts of conversations like in my mind to pass the time sometimes. Like it was just talks with myself in the residence hall, you know, on the to and fro, on the path. Sometimes I got very imaginative. I know Goenka was telling us to do away with our imagination, visualization, and vocalization, but it was going, you know? So how did you deal with, did you have any conversations with yourself? Yeah?
I did, but I will say after Deb had reminded me to focus my attention on breathing, and I realized that I was stirring away from the practice of Vipassana.
Yeah.
I made it after that. I made an extra effort to refocus.
Okay.
So the whole time I would stray away a little bit and then I would refocus.
Okay.
I would stray away a little bit and then I would refocus.
Okay.
And the times in the breaks, I'd be like mentally preparing almost. I would be resting. I would actually be resting. Like I would be laying there and just literally like letting my body rest to prepare for another really intense sit, because I know day 4, that's when he said to do those sits where we don't move.
Right.
I was doing that from the beginning, even before the sit. Like every sit that I sit, I'm not moving my legs, I'm not moving my hands. I will say sometimes I'm like this, trying to figure out how to get my shoulders. It's sometimes when I'm really uncomfortable, I'm trying to figure out how to get my back, and then sitting 10 hours a day, the core, you gotta strengthen your core. So finding the back is like, it takes some time. But overall, I was sitting like that from the very beginning. So when I got my breaks, I was like, oh gosh. I was like, what am I thinking about? I'm like thinking about fucking my body. Like, okay, I feel relief. And I'm just going to enjoy this right now because I have to get up in 20 minutes. So I'm just going to just chill. And then there were times where I was thinking, you know, when I was outside walking on the breaks, I was enjoying the snow, like we talked about before, and the coldness. I was feeling the sensations because he said, you know, use the practice while you're walking outside. So then when I was doing that, I was every time I would go to a thought and I would bring myself back to the practice of what do I feel in my body? What are the sensations? That's what I would go back to.
Nice.
I can't say I didn't have conversations with myself. I did, but my intention was to bring it back to the sensations in my body. Okay. But the conversations, you know, could go from the clarity of ideas that I would like to, like the connections I was having. They were like, it was like, oh wow, like before the sit, I would have these ideas, but then I would, during the sit and those times where I did allow myself to process, it would be a connection of those ideas, and I'd be like, oh, okay, a moment of catharsis and alignment. I'm like, okay, cool. Or Like what's maybe something that I would like to do, like a new goal that makes sense, that I'll sit with, like kind of put it in my pocket for later. Yeah, or
table that real quick.
Yeah, or a way to improve my meditation, because like maybe the last sit that I had was very difficult and I was moving like this a lot. I was like, well, what could I do differently? And I would process that and feel like, what part of my body hurt? What way do I want to sit? Am I pushing myself too hard? Because I was pushing myself really hard, like with multiple things, little things like food and the sits, and sometimes sitting a little bit extra. And I was reevaluating how much I wanted to do and how much was too much. So those are some examples of the conversations.
And when it even comes to, having ideas and tabling it for later and, putting that in your pocket for right now. One of the things that I know that you do, because you're a writer, and things like journaling, even things like dream journaling or writing down ideas and things in the moment, you do that. So with us not having a journal and not being able to write, were you able to cope pretty easily with that?
Yeah, I've told myself, the times that I do want to write things down, I tell myself, if it's important, I'll remember. It'll come back to me.
You just trust.
Yes, I'm building my trust muscles. So if I don't remember, then I guess it wasn't important enough for me to remember. And if I do, maybe something in my life, universe will give me something, and it'll be a shift of contrast, and it'll help me remember that one thing that I had forgotten, briefly. So I've had a lot of experiences like that where I'm like, so it was the remembering of to trust. I
love, a lot of times, Celeste, when I hear you speak, you'll be like, universe will give me something, universe will this, or my relationship with universe, Like some people say the universe, you just say universe. I just enjoy your speech with that. It's very selective. Do you feel like your relationship with universe shifted or changed or opened at all with this Vipassana sit? Like, did you feel anything different or connection?
Well, I'd like to say, just disclaimer, because universe, everyone has their own idea of what that is. And to me, universe, God, and source could be used interchangeably. I lean towards universe because God has a religious connotation, and source sometimes is a little confusing, and universe feels like it's everything. So for universe, and in this sit, it was I guess I've been feeling very trusting of the universe these last 2 years. So this sit was, if anything, just more confirmation. Especially because you guys came with me. And it felt very natural for you to come. It wasn't like I was luring you. It wasn't like I was forcing.
No.
I didn't even go out searching for you. I was at festivals and then I just met you.
We found each other.
So it felt so natural in that way with the universe, and then the snow and everything just felt so aligned. So, I guess I've become more aware and more equanimous in general. So when these things happen, it's less surprising and it's less like expecting. It just is.
It just is.
And I feel blessed.
I love that. And I love that you said, with more awareness and equanimity, because that's what Goenka was saying are the two wings on the bird. And that without both, it cannot fly. So you got your wings. You flying.
I got one on the first sit, which was awareness. And then this one was the second one. I'm like, all right, baby, I'm ready to fly.
Let's flap them.
Yes, let's glide. I saw those beautiful birds, the black and the white ones. Oh my gosh.
With those long tails.
Yes, and I was like, I want to paint that bird and with the awareness and equanimity on it.
They were beautiful.
Yes, I was like, that's one of the art pieces in my. It's like burned in my brain. I'm like, that's something I can't forget. Like it's there. So. Yes, so beautiful.
Oh my gosh. You talked about the conversations and some of the complications. What do you feel like were some profound revelations or even like eye-opening realizations that occurred to you, if any?
Do you have a specific, like, with what area in life, or just like with Vipassana, or like my goals, or alignment?
Yeah, anything that sticks out to you during the sit that you just, it occurred to you, you know, like something that really, I don't know, struck you. It's like, oh wow, I see that differently now.
There's so many.
I know.
Because there was like in my business, and then with my family, and then with the whole like journey of Vipassana in general, and with my relationships, and with, you know, so there's just so many different ones, and there's like, but I guess the biggest one, because I had a feeling this was a good question. I was like, there's zero rush.
Okay.
That was the biggest one. I was like, I got all these ideas, you know, these moments of clarity. And my initial reaction is, oh, I must go home and hit the ground running and just get to it. And I was really excited. But what came right after that was, there's zero rush.
Yeah.
And it's like, I already know everything is happening in divine timing.
Yeah.
But the zero rush was the feeling. It was a lived experience that was like, this feels different. Because you could tell yourself logically all the time, but until you do it enough and then feel it through lived experience, which is Bhavnaman Nipanya.
Okay.
So then when you do that, it seems more rooted. And that's what it felt like. I felt all these things, and like I had told you, this inner octopus, you know, always want to do these things. And there's a little other thing that says slow down. It felt like the slow down sign got a little bit bigger.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And it's like, I can trust more. I can surrender. I can be. And that was there we go. There was a sentence, and this is what I came to.
Okay.
It was, I want to say I can't. I have the potential to touch so many lives by just being myself. And there is zero rush. That was the sentence. I have the potential to touch many lives by just being myself, and there is zero rush.
Not a human doing, a human being. Just being is more than enough.
Yes.
I love it. Yeah. Oh, I love it. That's so powerful. My goodness. That's a revelation, you know, because there's so many people that feel that they need to get somewhere, they need to do something, they need to be somebody, but they forget to just...
That's all here.
Yeah.
Home is where the heart is, and it's infinite. And people learn and observe, like, I feel like the best way to teach is through embodiment. So it's like, if you know yourself and you follow your joy and your love, like, people can feel that.
Yes. Yeah.
You can't fake that.
Right.
And I'm noticing that in my life. Like, that's how we met. Like, I was just being, and you were just being, and it was natural and flowed. And I just want to follow the flow.
Yeah.
And it sounds so simple.
Yeah.
But
the principle is simple.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And the most impactful ones are.
Yeah.
Life can be really simple if we let it be.
For sure. For sure. And speaking of which, Celeste, when you talk about embodying, somebody once told me that if leadership is power, then true leadership is empowerment. Like, leaders create leaders. You know, and actually they said the way to spell leader is EXAMPLE. MPLE. That's the way to spell leader. And I feel like you led by example. In fact, when you talk about impact, you not only impacted people in that room, that us, the students, you impacted the teachers. You know, even one in particular, Miss Deb, she said stuff to you, like she was talking to you about the impact you were saying. Did that surprise you that the instructor, you know, came at you that way, or even mentioned that you had stuck out to her? Did that surprise you?
It did a little bit.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting that.
Okay.
But I also knew that I was working really hard.
Yeah.
Like, diligently.
Yes.
And vigilantly.
Yes. Ardently.
Yes.
Continuously.
Consistently. Yes.
Patiently and persistently.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a moment of surprise where I felt like honored.
Yeah.
But it was very like, I saw myself as like, well, yeah, I did do the work.
Okay.
So I was able to accept the love.
Okay. You were able to receive that
Yes.
feedback.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
It was nice to hear.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny because I'm like, huh. It's like a couple people were telling me it was like strong statue. I'm like, hey, that's cool.
So it's almost like, you know, like the queen on her throne. You
Yeah.
know, somebody's telling her like who she is. She's like, okay, thank you, but I know who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a really cool place to be. I've always prayed for that because that has not been this way for my whole life. This is like the last 2 years of my life that I've been beginning to feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
So to now feel it and feel like confident to even talk about it,
Right.
and not feel like I'm putting myself on a pedestal, or if I'm being like arrogant or blowing my head up. It's like, no, I just know who I am.
Right.
And I know that I work hard,
Right.
and that I'm full of love, and I have
Right.
a lot of love to give, and I'm not going to hide it. There's no reason to.
Yeah. Oof.
We're here to share it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
be it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And see it. You know.
Heal it and expand it.
Yeah.
Play with it. Dance with it. Flow with it. We're here to do a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah. We're here to do it all.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Be it all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And one of the last things I would love to ask you, after you talked just now about the revelations and the realizations, what do you feel like ultimately gave you that determination, you know, and that dedication to just stick it out, even though there was really no way out? There was no way out. Like we were there, but what gave you that determination to just go through with the entire thing, you know?
The whole course? Or
Yeah.
just when I was torturing myself?
Even then, you know, even then.
It reminds me when we were talking the other day, and I was like, I'll sit through the pain if it's for love.
Yeah.
It was for love, because I know when I was at day 8, when I reached the point of torture, and disclaimer, he says to not do that. He
Right.
says don't torture yourself.
Yeah.
But my ass was like, I'll be at breakfast in 20 minutes. I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
But it was torture.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was in that moment, for me, it was like, well, if I really want to do these big things that I'm dreaming of, this is the work. This is the work. So I would tell myself, if I move right now, that would be as if I'm giving up that dream. And I will not give up for love. This is really important to me. So I'm going to sit here because it's strengthening my muscles so that I can do that dream of love for the world.
Yeah.
And that's worth sitting for whatever pain that I'm sitting in.
Right.
Granted, I know my limits, and if it was too much, I know how to love myself, and if I want to move, I'll move.
Yeah.
But I had enough awareness to know why I was doing it, and doing it intentionally.
Yeah.
You could do anything as long as you know your intention.
Yes.
There's no right or wrong, it just is.
Right.
But do you know why you're doing whatever you're doing?
Right. Right.
And for me, I knew why,
Yeah.
and that's what you're asking me. And why? For the love.
For the love.
And the pain is worth the love.
Oh man.
And I kept telling myself, the deeper the pain, the deeper the love.
Woo! Woo!
I'm here for it.
Yes. Oh man. You remind me, Celeste, you know, I remember one of my mentors telling me, they said, if you do not sacrifice for your dream, then your dream becomes your sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What are you going to do? Let your fear in the way?
Right.
And then sacrifice all of the work that you had done previously?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know? Like, you come all this way.
Yeah.
You gonna turn back now?
Exactly. I'm like, I just sat an hour and 50 minutes. You did the last 10 minutes. I'll be pissed. But like, I'd be more pissed about it than the pain that I'm feeling now.
Right.
I'm like, no.
Right.
And I randomly think about you, though. I've never seen a man that broke their legs during meditation.
Yeah.
My legs will not break.
Yeah.
I'll be at breakfast.
Yeah.
Just sit.
Yeah.
It's fine. Just breathe.
Yeah.
Just breathe. Find another sensation.
Yeah, shoot, what he said, the Buddha sat for like a whole week. You know, like, you're like, I can sit for an hour.
Yeah. 2 hours.
Yeah.
Try not to cry. Like,
Yeah.
okay, just breathe.
Mm-hmm. But they do say that, you know, the ones who are willing or who are able to go far are the ones who are willing to do what nobody else is willing to do. You know, like that's the difference.
And it's those little actions, those little steps.
Yeah.
Because if I don't do that, I'm not gonna die.
Right.
So I could easily. It's so easy to not do it.
Yes.
As it is to do it.
Yes.
But that willingness
Mhm.
is so important.
Yeah.
It's like I have the intention though,
Right.
and that's why I'm willing.
Right. Oh my gosh. Thank you for your willingness. Thank you for your consistency, your persistency. Thank you just for your jovial personality, like just for your attitude of gratitude, you know, your thankfulness, it really permeates, you know, and it penetrates. And I know if it does for me, it does for others. And if there's anybody like watching this, they've never done a sit, they've never done Vipassana, this is their first time hearing about it. But listening to you, they have some inkling or some calling in their mind that says, you know what, I want to try this. What advice would you give?
Well, first we can take 3 deep breaths together right now.
Okay.
We can start there.
Okay.
It is really that simple. I have to put my hands on my heart sometimes. Do heart, yes. So in through your nose. Pause. Out through your mouth. Pause. In through your nose. Pause. Out through your mouth. Pause. Last one, in through your nose. As deep as you can go. Pause. Out through your mouth. So for anyone who has a difficult time or has never tried meditation, I recommend them doing this on a daily basis and starting there. That's where it starts. 3 deep breaths, right when you wake up, right when you sit in your car before you go to work, right when you get into your car from work, right before you eat, right after you shower, right before you go to bed. Every time you're transitioning to something else, just slow down, reconnect with your breath and your body. And when you get in a routine with that, it becomes more natural. But to do it with intention is really important. It's the greatest act of self-love that you could possibly do, in my opinion. And if you'd like to start meditating, I would say start 5 minutes, 10 minutes, once a week, 3 times a week, and be gentle with yourself. Gradually do it because you want to love yourself. Do it with intention. And over time, before you know it, it's those little steps that add up, and before you know it, you'll be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it's like, oh, maybe it's time to go to Vipassana and try an hour.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I like this. But I would definitely recommend starting 5-10 minutes, because going to Vipassana is, I was telling Jerome, it was like a marathon.
Yeah.
It's like 10 days, 10 miles per day, for example.
Yeah.
So if you want to run 10 miles per day for 10 days, I reckon you want to at least run 1 mile a day for a couple months
Right.
before doing that. Granted, you could do without.
Mhm.
There are people I'm sure that have never meditated before and done Vipassana and they lived. But I'm like, I don't know. I would recommend training those muscles a little bit
Yes,
so that
yes.
you can focus on the
Mhm.
practice
Yeah.
and not focus on the immense pain that you will be in from being
Mhm.
out of practice.
Mhm. Mhm.
So just little steps and
Yeah.
it'll just accumulate over time.
Yeah.
But remember your intention that just connecting with your breath is loving yourself.
Yes.
And you could do it anywhere at any time, for however long you want, with whoever you want.
Man,
It's that simple.
thank you. Thank you. So, be with breath, baby steps.
Yes.
Yes.
There's zero rush.
No rush at all.
Be gentle.
Yeah. Yeah. Start small,
Yeah.
you know, and then go for it. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, man. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. I love how transparent, how authentic you are, and your honesty, you know, letting people know the real. You know, you let us know the real. You don't hold back the real, Celeste, and you don't hold back how you feel, you know, but that's how we heal.
I was going to say, I'm able to do that because I do it with myself on a regular basis.
Right.
Vulnerability is another huge part of self-love.
Right.
So I'm able to do it with you and other people because I do it with myself.
Right.
I've been in years of therapy. Even when I'm not in crisis, like you don't have to be in crisis to be in therapy.
Right.
I'm in therapy because it's an opportunity to be vulnerable with someone else that is holding space intentionally, just to hold space and ask me questions rather than someone else who maybe isn't trained, who's also putting their stuff on me, and it's a little bit more confusing. But with the therapist, they dedicate their lives to study how the human brain works,
Right.
and they know how to hold space and ask questions, and then it's a safe space to be vulnerable.
Yes.
And a lot of people are hesitant to go to therapy because they don't want to be mentally ill, or like they feel like, you know, it's very stigmatized.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just go because it helps me stay in alignment, and it has helped me strengthen my vulnerability muscles. And I'm able to do it with you and connect deeper with you. And I'm like, I'm here for the deep love.
Yes.
That's the mantra, deep
Yes.
love. That's where I'm going.
Yes.
If anything I'm doing,
We're good.
it's towards that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
vulnerability, creative
Yeah.
expression, meditation, movement meditation, play.
Yeah.
I like writing, creative
Yeah.
expression. That's a huge one for me.
Yeah.
So it's just playing with energy all the time.
Yeah.
So, and I love your vulnerability too. It goes both ways, Jerome.
Blessings.
You're
Blessings.
such a bright soul.
We
We connected very quickly.
We did.
The first time we met. It's
We
been
did.
that way
Yeah.
since the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's continued.
Yes.
You know. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. You know, to seeing how it unfolds.
Me too.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
Cheers to what is and cheers to what's coming.
Hey, yes. Yes. So it is, and so it will be.
We will rise up as one.
Come on now. It's
Rise
already
up as
begun.
one.
Yes. Rise up as one. I love it. And you're right. You be going deep. You be diving deep. You don't have that snorkel. You got on the scuba diving gear. You going down there with the oxygen tank, girl.
Checking out those volcanoes, those
Yeah.
underwater volcanoes.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
What's up, fam?
Yes, yes. So thank you once again, and this has just been a pleasure. I really appreciate just learning from your experience, all the insights. It's very relatable and it's very profound in its simplicity as well. You know, like we say, the simple things. You know, the little things are the big things.
Yeah. Less is more.
Yes, yes, all around, all around. So wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, let's do it again.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yes. Next year, baby.
Awesome.